Welcome to the Dads of Football. Today we are talking some of the NCAA college transfer updates. Josh, the state of the transfer portal. Correct me if I'm wrong here. This year they're seeing it. At first, it started off a little bit slower than last year, and now it's gangbusters. It's in full swing.
It's kind of amazing if you go on 24/7 sports or 247 sports and you're just kind of
Mhm.
following the latest updates as they come. It feels like we don't go 12 hours without somebody else saying, you know what, I can find a better situation somewhere else, whether it's DJ Waller Jr. leaving Michigan or Lawrence, and I'm going to screw this name up, but I think it's Falatier leaving Washington State. You've got guys from all over college football taking off. And Jeremy, you and I have talked about this a few times. It makes sense. It makes sense. They have opened up this can of worms that allows athletes to pretty much change, school whenever they want. And it's insane. I mean, it's insane the sheer amount of movement of, players leaving from Colorado, from Memphis, from Michigan State, again, Washington State, Michigan, Oregon State. I mean, it's amazing to follow these players just finding a better situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of insane what's going on right now. Obviously, at some point, the NCAA is going to have to streamline this in a better way because the
Yeah.
way that it's going right now, I mean, I think there's still a rule in place that okay, we'll allow you to transfer once, and then at some point they have to sit
Right.
out. But it doesn't seem like anybody's sitting out at any point.
No.
It's like they're just going off like one college to another. We're seeing more than ever players going to 3+ colleges in a very, very short span. And it just seems like these rules are being manipulated. I think they just got to get tougher on this whole thing at some point.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me pause with that, and I agree with you. In essence, I agree with you. Um, However, as long as we allow college coaches to leave whenever they want, recruit kids, make promises across dinner tables, make promises, um, and offer scholarships and saying, like, come play for me, I'll take care of your kid. As long as that exists, as long as that world exists where, and rightly so, it's their job, they should be able to change their job whenever they want. However, maybe we should be leaving it open for athletes, especially the amount of money that is being handled in general by the coaches in this situation, and now the athletes are being given that same opportunity. I don't know. I'm a little torn on this, and not
Yeah.
to say that I think it should be I can change every year if I want, but it feels like if in the case of a coach, um, you sign a contract this year, maybe you should have to stay for 5 years. And I know that's insane, but it just as far as athletes are concerned and just dealing with it on a much smaller scale and with my son right now, a lot of the things these coaches share deal with the idea that I'm going to take care of your son. He's going to come here and develop. We're going to make him the best football player and man possible and then move forward. That's where you're sending your kid. That's going to have an immediate impact on their future. Um, that freedom maybe is a little bit good, but I don't know. It's also a little bit terrifying because it's really hard as a coach then to ever know what you're going to have from year to year.
You know what? There is a give and take here because now colleges are starting to play the game in a very different way. So again, you talk about the fact that once upon a time it used to be send your kids here, we're going to nurture them. We see that they're
Yep.
young men and we want to develop them as people, not just as football players. It doesn't seem
Yep.
like that message is there anymore. And I'm going to pick on University of Iowa a little bit here, and put it into a scenario. So right now, both of us have some connections to play a player that was there or not there, and we know some of the talking that's gone on to it, and obviously we haven't heard everything, but it's interesting at Iowa that from what I've read and from what I know about them is that they were at one point 5 scholarships over the NCAA limit. They're supposed to be at 85. They were at 90. Surprise, Jacob Bostic jumps into the portal, goes in there, is transferring out. It was a surprise because he had a very strong spring by all accounts. People were counting him to be the second or third wide receiver at this point. at the
Yeah.
University of Iowa, or I should say second string or third wide receiver, getting into it. He's healthy, and then he jumps in
Right.
on a position that Iowa's weak. However, that brought Iowa's limit down to 89. They still need to get at least four guys off to be even, but they're taking guys and giving them scholarship guarantees right now, which tells me that the coaches know that there's a set amount of players on their team that they're going to be pushing towards the portal, saying like, listen, we don't really see a future for you here, without maybe saying it that harshly, but saying
Right.
you're going to have a very hard road to play here. Are you sure that Iowa's right for you? Basically telling him to go, kick rocks and go leave, because Iowa's already brought in an offensive lineman from North Dakota. They're hosting a receiver from Missouri State right now. There's rumors that they're going to be hosting a quarterback, possibly Lincoln Keenholz from Ohio State, if he jumps into the portal, since there's a 5-man rotation right now at Ohio
Right.
State. So the math is just interesting. At some point, they have to be telling players, hey, your best interest might be at a different school, and not so many words saying, we don't really want you here anymore. And that's the sad part.
I can't even imagine how that conversation goes. We recruited you 2 years ago. We had big ambitions for you. We thought you fit in here, here, and here. And this is whether we're talking about Iowa or any other school.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how that then goes. We've put all this time into you, theoretically money, and we don't really need you anymore. We think it's in your best interest to explore the portal, make your phone calls, talk to whomever you were talking to before, and see if you can land somewhere else that might put you in a better situation. Because right now, we don't see you playing a role in our program over the next 2, 3 years. And that's the conversation. Like I just can't wrap my head around. I can't imagine one having to be the coach that has that conversation, because it's probably um, starting with a position coach and then the head coach meeting. I just,
Mhm.
how does that conversation even begin? I mean, where does it even go?
It depends on the coach, because at Iowa,
Yeah.
I think it goes very similar to the way I just said, hey, listen, we've got some younger guys that we're seeing that are going to overtake your position.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, we're not seeing necessarily playing time. You may want to go check out other avenues if you want to really play college football. Basically saying we don't want you without pulling your scholarship. Now, if you
Right.
pull a scholarship from a kid, other than the fact that you just want someone better, that's a really cold notion, and you're going to damage your reputation. And let's talk about a school that's essentially doing that, Colorado, um, who
Yeah.
is obviously over the last couple of years by far and away the most active team in the portal, good, bad, whatever you want to call it. I say it's bad because it's just a rotation. And Deion
Right.
Sanders basically just tells the kids straight up, sorry, you're not good enough. You can't play here anymore. So he's pretty much telling them, we're going to pull your scholarship. The way he told those kids in that room when he first took the job, I'm bringing Louis, right? I'm bringing the best
Right.
baggage. So pack your bags, you're out. I'm bringing new bags in. He's telling them like, you're not going to play. And he's also taking scholarships away from kids. Now, at the same time, he's bringing in boatloads of players, but now
Right.
I don't know how much he's taking scholarships away because of the guys that he just got there. It seems like they're seeing the writing on the wall and they're just jumping ship. Like, come on, man. We're mercenaries here. And, I want to find a little bit more stability because we're talking big names here. If I'm looking at Colorado's list of, and it's
Right.
not, it's Colorado's bumping so hard right now, it doesn't want to even jump up right now. But I mean, they're bringing in guys from all over the place, but they're losing a
Right.
ton of guys too. And I'm having to go through. So outgoing transfers, they've got a giant section of incoming transfers. They've got okay,
Yes.
get this. They've got 29 players incoming. 29. Outgoing, they've got 36
I mean,
with
I'm
with
looking at
one of
that.
the
I'm
worst
looking.
recruiting classes. They have a terrible Old
Yeah.
Dominion has a better recruiting class than them.
Just over the last, let's just say since the 17th, right?
Hmm.
They have, in terms of guys entering the transfer portal for whatever reason, and I know Chimon Mateer already ended up at Arizona State, but just starting on the 17th, They lose Kerry Mons, who not a highly recruited guy out of high school, but nevertheless a talented edge rusher. Vito Tisdale, Shimon Mateer, like I just mentioned. You got Demoy Kennedy. You got Alton McCaskill, Eric Brantley Jr., and that's just the 17th to the 19th. And then if we look on the 22nd to now, right? So what's that? Monday until now, they are at 5 players on their way out
Yeah.
just in the last 3 days. It and while maybe these guys didn't play massive roles in the program, it it almost seems like when he came in and said to the players that were at Colorado when he got there, "Hey, I'm bringing Louis. We're gonna make way for the new guys I'm bringing in with." It almost seems like he went to some of the guys that he brought in, or at the very least, guys that felt like they had a home, and said that very same conversation we talked about with Iowa. Hey, this worked out great for a year, or yeah, two, but yeah, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. And even a guy like Dylan Edwards, who I believed was a 4-star out of high school and looked to figure in next year, is now on his way out as of today.
Dylan Edwards looked like he was going to be a monster for that team, and he had
Yes.
one incredible game and got a little beat up, but at the same time, there was a
Yes.
lack of a line there for him, but he was a fantastic player. Their entire running backs room is running for the hills right now. And yeah, I
Right.
know they got Dallin Hayden from Ohio State, but I'm sorry, I would have rather have had McCaskill and Edwards than I would have rather have had him. So the thing is, when you look at the guys that are leaving and the guys that are coming in, it's not like they got a lot of top tier guys coming in. They're
Right.
getting a lot of mid-range 3-star guys. So to me, I'm like, really, that doesn't sound like Louis. That sounds like the knockoff that you buy, down at the corner. It doesn't sound like Louis. He may have had Louis at one
Louis.
time, but Louis leaving, man. Louis, they're gone.
Yes.
Um, the big one that I thought, other than the two that we named, um,
Yeah.
Cormani McLean. I mean, you're
Oh
talking a
yeah.
4-star DB, a guy that played in I think 9 games for him, and was featured heavily on the was it Netflix or Amazon? I think it was Amazon, the Amazon Prime series that
Amazon.
they had, which I
Yep.
watched, and he was in there, and they thought he would be the next big stud at DB, and he's taking shots at them on social media, and Deion's taking shots back. It's like, when do we
Yes.
see a coach attacking a kid? And I know people on social media that are Deion Sanders sycophants, which I'm not, are going to say, well, the kid
Apologists.
attacked. Yeah, he attacked him first, so he has a right to respond. It's like, he's a high school kid. All he said was he
Right.
called them a clickbait team. Let's be honest, they are a clickbait team. They have a whole YouTube section set up through one of Deion's kids
Right.
to basically feature them on YouTube 24/7. And sometimes there's a double-edged sword with that the stuff that people
Yep.
see isn't necessarily great. And now it's becoming real because it seems like it's becoming toxic social media for them. Even their
Yes.
social media guy was attacking Cormani McLean and threatening to
Yep.
show video of him at the clubs. And it's like, if I'm a player and your social media guy is threatening to show my private life, in on video when
Right.
I do something that they don't like, it just seems like the house of cards has completely fallen before they even fully got it up.
I think what breaks my heart about it the most, and being a high school teacher and coach for many years, there are things that happen in practice. There are things that happen um, with your athletes where at the college level, when money is involved and you're talking D1, those things, okay, I imagine those things probably find their way out into the media. But Dion's approach wasn't even football related, it was personal attacks. I mean, if you're intended to be the leader of men and you claim to be a leader of men, don't you want to reflect the integrity that you hope your players reflect on the field and in their personal lives and in the classroom? Isn't that a part of what you do? Isn't that what you're recruiting? I mean, I think one of the saddest things about Dion is presents himself as this godly man who is going to support his fellow man, and yet first opportunity he gets, he's taking personal shots at a player. Again, the approach that Cormani took appeared to be specific to the program. And I
Hmm.
get it. It's Deion's program. There's a personal attachment to it. However, you've now taken it to everything off the field. Things that might be conversations that a player has with you because they've got nowhere else to turn. And maybe that's not the case. I understand that. However, how can you I can't imagine again being a recruit and he comes in and says, we're going to treat your kid with the utmost respect. We are going to honor him. We are going to make sure he develops, and we're going to do so in an integrity filled way. How are you not a parent? You raise your hand and go, well, wait a sec. I can't imagine what that must be like for people now, because obviously, if you're a talented player, Deion's going to protect you. But if you're a player who he no longer has use for, I guess it's full on attack mode.
Yeah,
I just don't understand it.
I don't think next season is going to go great for them. And I took a look at the schedule. I think they've got 12 games next season. So I'm just counting them up here. So they got North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, Central Florida, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Okay, so 12 games. I'm going
Right.
to just count off the teams I think that they're going to lose to. I think they're going to lose to Nebraska. I'm gonna call
I
it.
think that's
And
possible.
Nebraska's not a great team, but I think
No.
second year under new coach, I think they come back. Um, I'm gonna say they lose to Kansas State. That's 2 games. They're gonna lose to
Yep.
Arizona, uh, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. So for me, the best that they go next season is 6-6.
And here's the thing. We and the talking heads on TV will still be talking about them. And I guess for me, what I would love to see is at some point in time, if we're going to say, and of course we know this isn't true, but if we're going to say that college athletics are amateur, if we're going to say that college athletics are opportunities for kids to get into college and play a sport that they love and continue to flourish in that sport, if we're going to make those claims, shouldn't the representatives of all these large institutions, shouldn't they be role models? I mean, shouldn't
Mhm.
they be at the very least someone that you can trust to impart upon a new generation of athletes and just human beings, young men,
Yeah,
in a
you would
way
hope
that's
so. Mhm.
it's going to help them flourish. I just every bit about this and every bit about Deion, and you and I have talked about this at length. Um, shouldn't it be more than not just the clicks, but the what have you done for me today? Because
Mhm.
that's what it appears to be,
It's
and
exactly what
again,
it appears to be. And here's the
I'm
thing
sure there's
too.
more to the story.
There probably is. The funny thing is, if they go 6-6 next season during the regular season, people are going to
Right.
say, "Well, they're getting better. They won 2 more games."
Every year.
And I'm going to say, "Well, they also have a weaker schedule.
Right.
It's not like they're playing USC. They're not playing Oregon.
Right.
They got the big Pac-10 teams off their list now since they're now in the Big Ten. And I'm going to say you don't
Right.
have those teams. Instead, they have Central Florida instead of one of those schools. So it doesn't look to me like anyway, they could still get upset too. I mean, a Colorado State could
Yeah.
still outplay them like they nearly did last year. So who
Yep.
knows? Couple other teams that are interesting right now. I'm just gonna mention them in passing. Michigan State, even with the new coach from I think he was Oregon State, right? Was the Oregon
Yeah.
State coach?
Yep.
They've got, oh my gosh, that's another team that people are running for the hills. 2 guys today. There was one, two, three, four, 5 guys the day before that.
Yep.
There was three
Yep.
guys the day before that, 2 guys, 1 guy. I mean, they're losing a ton of guys and they're not getting a whole lot in return. Antonio Gates Jr.
No.
leaves the program. Um, that's a big name. Other than them, I mean, they're getting hit hard. As far as big players that are coming out, not too many big giant names. I thought Colorado had
Right.
some of the more interesting ones. The only other kid I'll say out of Arizona State, Jaden Rashada, who I think is very interesting. And
Yep.
just I get why Arizona State has had a lot of movement in terms of coaching staff and things of that nature, but at the same time, um, they've just I don't know, man. They've that's just not a great program.
I don't even think it's just one program anymore. And again, when the coach leaves, you should be able to leave the school. Um,
Mhm.
it's just a shame. I just so much of this and the things that I loved about college football and things I love about college athletics in general, I feel like has been stolen a little bit from the transfer portal. Watching a young kid grow and flourish, following the path of a kid who comes out as a 3-star and overachieves, so to speak, based on his rankings and catches up to the other 5 stars. Those things are wonderful, incredible stories. But now you have to then follow them from team to team. And uh, I miss the days where a guy goes and you hear about, you're watching a broadcast and it talks about this young freshman that they're excited about, or you watch a game day and they start mentioning names of guys that walked on. I loved those stories, and I feel like this takes those away a little bit. Again, those are players chasing their dreams. These are coaches who this is their career and their passion is to play at the highest level. But I feel like this steals a little bit of that from college athletics.
Well, we got about 5 more days before the spring portal closes down. We'll see who else jumps in the mix, and it'll be interesting to see where a quarterback like Jaden Rashada goes. Remember, he was originally supposed to go to Florida, but his NLI deal fell apart, and off he
Yeah.
was. So we'll see what happens. To those watching, make sure you catch us in a few hours. We will be doing a live stream for the NFL draft. We'll see. Hopefully, everything works swimmingly for the Bears and what happens there. How many quarterbacks go in the first round? How many quarterbacks go in the first 10 picks? That will be interesting. Are you saying 10 for the first 10 or 6 for the first 10 picks?
Now I'm saying 6 in the first round.
Yes, 6 first round. Man, Rumorville's happening, but we'll see more next time. Josh, as always, thank you, and we'll catch you in a few hours.